What if I told you that the wealthiest version of you already exists in another dimension, and you can merge with them starting today using a scientific principle that most people will never discover in their entire lifetime? Welcome to Attraction Magnet, where we decode the invisible laws that govern abundance and prosperity. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn the exact quantum jumping technique that billionaires and high achievers use subconsciously to collapse multiple timelines into their favor. This isn't theory, and it isn't wishful thinking. This is about rewiring your relationship with wealth at the deepest quantum level and stepping into a reality where money flows to you naturally and effortlessly. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about manifesting abundance. If you're ready to become a magnet for wealth and prosperity, hit that subscribe button right now, because every video on this channel is designed to recalibrate your frequency to match the life you're meant to live. Let's dive in. Right now, in this very moment, there are infinite versions of you living in parallel realities. There's a version of you who made different choices and took different risks. There's a version of you who is already living in that dream house, driving that dream car, and experiencing financial freedom beyond what you currently imagine possible. This isn't science fiction, and it isn't some abstract spiritual concept. Quantum physics has shown us through experiments like the double-slit experiment that reality itself is far more flexible and responsive to consciousness than we ever believed. The observer effect proves that particles exist in a state of infinite possibility until consciousness collapses them into a single reality. What this means for you is profound and life-changing. Your financial reality right now is just one collapsed possibility out of infinite potential timelines. The question isn't whether a wealthier version of you exists. The question is whether you're ready to quantum jump into that timeline and merge with that version of yourself. Most people spend their entire lives locked into a single timeline because they don't understand that reality is malleable and responsive to their dominant frequency. They wake up every day and recreate the same financial struggles because they're broadcasting the same mental and emotional signal. They think about lack and they experience lack. They worry about bills and more bills appear. They doubt their ability to create wealth, and that doubt becomes their evidence. This is the prison of the single timeline, and almost everyone is trapped in it without even knowing. But you're different because you're here right now receiving this information, and that's not an accident. The fact that you clicked on this video means that somewhere deep in your subconscious, you already know that there's a wealthier timeline available to you, and you're ready to access it. Quantum jumping is the process of shifting your consciousness from your current reality into a parallel reality, where your desired outcome already exists. Think of it like changing channels on a television. Each channel exists simultaneously, but you only experience the one you're tuned into. Right now, you're tuned into a specific financial frequency, and that frequency is generating your current money experiences. If you want to experience wealth, you don't need to create it from scratch. You need to tune into the frequency where it already exists. This is the secret that separates those who struggle financially from those who seem to effortlessly attract abundance. The wealthy aren't working harder than you, and they aren't smarter than you. They're simply operating on a different frequency. And when you match that frequency, the universe has no choice but to deliver matching circumstances into your experience. Let me break down exactly how this works, because understanding the mechanics is what gives you power. Every thought you think and every emotion you feel generates an electromagnetic signal that radiates out into the quantum field. This field is like an infinite ocean of possibilities containing every potential reality. When you focus on lack and limitation, you're sending out a signal that says, "I am someone who doesn't have enough." The quantum field receives that signal and returns experiences that match it. When you shift your focus to abundance and wealth, you send out a completely different signal, and the quantum field responds by collapsing possibilities that match that new frequency. This isn't magic, and it isn't luck. This is universal law operating with mathematical precision every single moment of every single day. Now here's where most people get tripped up, and why their manifestation attempts fail repeatedly. They try to think positive thoughts, while their subconscious mind is still programmed with poverty consciousness. They affirm abundance, while their body is vibrating with the tension and fear of scarcity. This creates what's called a mixed signal, and mixed signals produce inconsistent results. Imagine trying to tune your radio to a specific station, but you keep moving the dial back and forth. You'll get static and fragments of different channels, but never a clear signal. This is what happens when your conscious desires don't match your subconscious programming. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are is determined by your most dominant and consistent frequency. To successfully quantum jump to your richest self, you need to become an energetic match for wealth before the physical evidence appears. This is the ultimate test of faith and the point where most people give up. They want to see the money first, and then they'll believe they're abundant. But that's backwards. The quantum field doesn't work that way. You have to embody the frequency first, and then the field reorganizes itself to match your new signal. This requires you to feel wealthy now even when your bank account says otherwise. It requires you to think like a wealthy person even when bills are piling up. It requires you to make decisions from abundance even when fear is screaming at you to play small and stay safe. This isn't about denying your current reality. This is about refusing to let your current reality define your identity. The wealthiest version of you in that parallel timeline isn't worried about money. They aren't checking their bank account with anxiety. They aren't wondering if they can afford something. They move through the world with a calm certainty that money is always available to them. They make decisions based on desire, not limitation. They invest in themselves without hesitation, because they know the return is inevitable. They give generously because they understand that wealth is a flow, not a fixed amount. When you quantum jump, you're not trying to become this person. You're recognizing that this person already is you in a different timeline, and you're choosing to align with that version through your thoughts, emotions, and actions. One of the most powerful techniques for quantum jumping is called timeline meditation, and it's simpler than you think. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed and close your eyes. Take several deep breaths and allow your body to relax completely. Now imagine that you're standing in front of a doorway. On the other side of that doorway is the timeline where your richest self exists. See the door clearly in your mind. Notice the color and the texture and any details that appear. When you're ready, reach forward and open that door. Step through it, and as you do, feel yourself merging with that wealthier version of you. Look around this new timeline. What do you see? What does your home look like? What car do you drive? What clothes are you wearing? How do you feel in your body? Notice the calm confidence and the sense of security. Notice how different decisions feel from this place. Spend at least 10 minutes immersed in this timeline, experiencing it with all your senses. The more real you make it, the stronger the quantum connection becomes. Here's what happens during this meditation that most people don't realize. You're not just visualizing, you're actually sending your consciousness into that parallel timeline and creating a bridge between your current reality and that one. The more often you visit this timeline, the stronger the bridge becomes, until eventually the two timelines merge. This is how quantum jumping works in practical terms. You're training your consciousness to exist in two places simultaneously until the lower frequency timeline dissolves and you fully embody the higher one. Science calls this quantum entanglement. Mystics call it becoming one with your highest self. Whatever you call it, the result is the same. Your external reality shifts to match your internal frequency. But here's the critical piece that most manifestation teachings leave out. Quantum jumping isn't just about meditation and visualization. Those are important, but they're only half the equation. The other half is aligned action. Once you've connected with your richest self, you need to start making decisions and taking actions from that identity. This is where the rubber meets the road. When an opportunity appears that scares you but excites your wealthy self, you say yes. When you're tempted to buy the cheap option but your wealthy self would invest in quality, you invest in quality. When someone offers you a chance to expand, but your scared self wants to stay small, you expand. Every single choice you make is either reinforcing your old timeline or building your new one. Choose consciously and choose from your richest self. Let me share a powerful reframe that will change how you see money forever. Money is not a thing you acquire. Money is a frequency you embody. Most people treat money like a scarce resource they need to chase and capture. They believe that if someone else has money, that means less is available for them. This is poverty consciousness, and it keeps you locked in the struggle timeline. The truth is that money is simply energy in motion. It's a tool the universe uses to match your internal frequency with external resources. When you're vibrating at the frequency of wealth, money flows to you through infinite channels. When you're vibrating at the frequency of lack, money flows away from you no matter how hard you work. This is why two people can have the same job and same salary, but one builds wealth while the other stays broke. It's not about the amount coming in. It's about the frequency they're holding. Your richest self understands something that your current self might be resisting. Wealth is your natural state. You weren't born to struggle and suffer and barely get by. You were born to thrive and create and experience abundance in all forms. Somewhere along the way, you picked up beliefs that convinced you otherwise. Maybe you were told that money is the root of all evil. Maybe you learned that rich people are greedy or selfish. Maybe you internalized the belief that you're not smart enough, or talented enough, or worthy enough to be wealthy. These beliefs are not truth. They're just programs running in your subconscious mind, and programs can be rewritten. Every time you catch yourself thinking a thought that reinforces lack, you have a choice. You can believe that thought and stay on your current timeline, or you can challenge it and choose a thought that aligns with your richest self. Here's a question that will reveal everything about your current money frequency. When you think about having $10 million in your bank account right now, what emotion comes up? If you feel excitement and ease and a sense of yes, this feels natural, then you're already aligned with wealth. But if you feel doubt or fear or a sense of that's impossible for me, then you've just discovered the gap between your current frequency and your desired frequency. The good news is that gaps can be closed. The way you close this gap is through consistent frequency training. You train yourself to feel comfortable with wealth. You train yourself to think thoughts that support abundance. You train yourself to take actions that a wealthy person would take. Over time, the gap closes, and you become a vibrational match for the reality you desire. One of the fastest ways to accelerate your quantum jump is to surround yourself with the energy of wealth. This doesn't mean you need to hang out with billionaires, although that would certainly help. What it means is that you need to immerse yourself in environments and experiences that make you feel abundant. Visit neighborhoods where your dream home exists and walk around feeling what it's like to live there. Go to luxury car dealerships and sit in the vehicles you want to drive. Try on clothes that your richest self would wear. Dine at restaurants that serve the quality of food you'll enjoy regularly. Every time you do this, you're sending a signal to your subconscious mind that says, "This is normal for me." Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. It simply records the frequency and starts working to make it your consistent experience. Now let's talk about one of the biggest blocks that prevents people from quantum jumping to wealth, and that's the guilt that comes with desiring more. So many people have been conditioned to believe that wanting wealth is selfish or materialistic. They feel guilty for wanting a better life when others are struggling. They've been taught that spirituality and money don't mix. Let me be crystal clear about this. There is nothing spiritual about being broke. There is nothing noble about struggling. There is nothing enlightened about denying yourself the resources that would allow you to live fully and give generously. In fact, the more abundant you become, the more you can contribute to others. Wealth gives you options and freedom and the ability to make a real difference in the world. Your richest self isn't hoarding money. They're using it as a tool to create beauty and solve problems and uplift others. When you quantum jump to that version of yourself, you don't become selfish. You become a conduit for abundance to flow through into the world. Another major block is the fear of change. Even when people say they want wealth, their subconscious mind is terrified of what that wealth might bring. They worry about losing friendships or being judged or having more responsibility. They fear that success will expose them as a fraud. They're afraid that if they get everything they want, they'll somehow mess it up and lose it all. These fears are completely normal, but they're also completely false. Your richest self has already navigated these fears and proven that they're just illusions. When you quantum jump, you bring that wisdom back with you. You realize that the people who truly love you will celebrate your success, not resent it. You understand that responsibility is a privilege, not a burden. You know that you're not a fraud because you've been building the skills and character all along. Fear loses its power when you face it from your richest self's perspective. Let's go deeper into the concept of parallel realities, because this is where the real magic happens. Right now, as you're reading these words, there's a version of you who never clicked on this video. There's a version of you who gave up on your dreams years ago. There's a version of you who took that risk and succeeded beyond measure. There's a version of you who is living in poverty and a version living in a mansion. All of these versions exist simultaneously in the quantum field. The question is, which version are you feeding your energy and attention? Because whichever version you focus on becomes stronger in your experience. This is the fundamental principle of quantum mechanics applied to your personal reality. You are not locked into a single path. You are constantly choosing between infinite possibilities with every thought and every decision. Most people don't realize they're choosing because they're running on autopilot. They wake up and think the same thoughts they thought yesterday. They react to circumstances the same way they always have. They make decisions based on past patterns instead of future possibilities. This keeps them locked in the same timeline year after year. But when you become conscious of your power to choose, you suddenly have access to every timeline. You can literally decide which reality you want to experience and start aligning with it today. Your richest self isn't lucky. They're not more talented. They simply made different choices and held a different frequency. And you can make those same choices starting right now in this moment. Here's a powerful practice that will shift your frequency immediately. For the next 30 days, commit to living as if you've already quantum jumped. Wake up every morning and ask yourself, what would my richest self do today? How would they think? How would they speak? What decisions would they make? Then do that. If your richest self exercises every morning, then you exercise. If they invest in personal development, then you invest. If they speak with confidence and authority, then you speak that way. If they dress well and take care of their appearance, then you do the same. Every action you take from your richest self's identity sends a signal to the quantum field that you're serious about this shift. The universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to commitment and consistency. During these 30 days, you're going to notice something interesting. Opportunities will start appearing that weren't there before. People will show up offering exactly what you need. Ideas will come to you that solve problems you've been struggling with. This isn't coincidence. This is the quantum field reorganizing itself to match your new frequency. When you shift your identity, the universe has to shift your circumstances to match. This is law. But here's the catch. You have to stay committed to your new identity even when the old reality is still visible. There will be days when your bank account hasn't changed yet, and doubt creeps in. There will be moments when old fears surface, and you're tempted to go back to playing small. This is the critical point where most people quit. They give up right before the breakthrough. Don't be that person. Trust the process and stay aligned with your richest self, no matter what the external world looks like. Let's talk about the role of gratitude in quantum jumping, because this is one of the most powerful accelerators you have available. When you feel genuine gratitude for wealth that hasn't manifested yet, you're collapsing time. You're pulling the future into the present moment. Your subconscious mind and the quantum field don't understand the difference between something that happened and something you're feeling grateful for. When you say thank you for the abundance that's flowing to me, and you feel it in your body, you're creating a vibrational match for that abundance. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is aligning your energy with the reality you're choosing to experience. The more you practice gratitude for your desired reality, the faster that reality manifests. But here's where most people misuse gratitude. They say the words without feeling the emotion. They recite affirmations mechanically, while their body is still vibrating with stress and worry. This doesn't work. The quantum field responds to emotion, not words. Your richest self feels secure and peaceful and excited about their wealth. They feel grateful, not because they're trying to manipulate the universe, but because they genuinely appreciate the abundance in their life. When you quantum jump, you need to embody that same emotional state. Close your eyes and feel into what it's like to have everything you need and more. Feel the relief of never worrying about money. Feel the excitement of being able to say yes to opportunities without checking your bank account first. Feel the joy of being able to give generously to causes you care about. This feeling is the key that unlocks your new timeline. Now, I want to address something that might be coming up for you as you absorb this information. You might be thinking this sounds amazing, but I've tried manifesting before and it didn't work. You might be feeling skeptical or wondering if this is really possible for someone like you. These thoughts are completely normal, and they're actually a sign that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. Resistance shows up when you're about to make a major shift. Your ego is scared of change because change means the death of your old identity. But here's the truth. You haven't failed at manifesting. You've just been manifesting from the wrong frequency. You've been trying to attract wealth while still identifying as someone who doesn't have wealth. That's like trying to tune your radio to classical music while the dial is set to rock. The signal is mixed, and the results are inconsistent. The reason quantum jumping works when other methods don't is because it addresses the identity level, not just the desire level. Most people want more money, but they still see themselves as broke. They want success, but they still identify as a failure. Quantum jumping bypasses this conflict by having you merge with a version of yourself where the identity shift has already occurred. You're not trying to become wealthy. You're recognizing that a wealthy version of you already exists, and you're choosing to align with that version. This removes the struggle and the doubt because you're not creating something from nothing. You're simply tuning into a frequency that's already broadcasting. Let me give you a practical example of how this plays out in real life. Imagine you're at your job and your boss offers you a new project that comes with more responsibility and more visibility, but no immediate pay increase. Your current self might say, "No thanks," because it's not worth the extra work without extra money. But your richest self sees this completely differently. They see the opportunity to develop new skills and build relationships and position themselves for future advancement. They say yes immediately because they understand that wealth is built through strategic moves, not just immediate payoffs. When you quantum jump, you start making decisions like your richest self, and those decisions compound over time into massive results. Or imagine you have $1,000 and you need to decide whether to pay off debt or invest in a course that will teach you a valuable skill. Your current self focused on scarcity might choose the debt because it feels safer. Your richest self focused on abundance would invest in the skill because they know that new knowledge creates new opportunities, which create new income streams. Neither choice is wrong, but one keeps you on your current timeline, while the other moves you toward your desired timeline. Every financial decision is a vote for which version of yourself you're choosing to become. Choose consciously. Here's another key insight about quantum jumping. Your richest self isn't just wealthy in terms of money. They're wealthy in health and relationships and time and peace of mind. True abundance is holistic. If you quantum jump to wealth, but you're still stressed and unhealthy and disconnected from loved ones, you haven't actually upgraded your timeline. You've just traded one set of problems for another. The most powerful quantum jump is one where you become the version of yourself who has balance and fulfillment across all areas of life. This means that as you're working on your money frequency, you also need to be working on your health frequency and your relationship frequency and your spiritual frequency. Everything is connected, and when you raise your frequency in one area, it naturally lifts the others. Let's talk about the concept of quantum collapse, because this is where science and spirituality converge in a beautiful way. In quantum physics, particles exist in a state called superposition, where they're in multiple states simultaneously until observed. The act of observation collapses the wave function, and the particle becomes fixed in a single state. Your life works the same way. Right now, you exist in a state of infinite potential. Every possible version of your future is hovering in the quantum field, waiting to be collapsed into reality. What collapses these possibilities into your experience is your consistent observation, which means your focus, your attention, your belief. When you consistently focus on lack, you collapse lack into your reality. When you consistently focus on abundance, you collapse abundance into your reality. You are the observer and the creator of your experience. This is incredibly empowering because it means you're not a victim of circumstance. You're not limited by your past or your current situation. You're not at the mercy of the economy or the job market or any external condition. You have the power to collapse any timeline you choose through the direction of your consciousness. Your richest self understands this power and uses it deliberately. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect before they start feeling abundant. They don't need permission from anyone to claim their wealth. They simply choose it and align with it and trust that the quantum field will deliver the matching circumstances. This is the ultimate freedom, and it's available to you right now. One of the most profound shifts that happens when you quantum jump is that you stop asking how and you start trusting the process. The how is not your job. Your job is to hold the frequency and take inspired action when it presents itself. The universe has infinite intelligence and infinite resources, and it will orchestrate the how in ways you could never predict or plan. When you're constantly asking how you're operating from your limited logical mind, which can only see possibilities based on past experience. But the quantum field isn't limited by logic or past experience. It can create miracles and synchronicities and opportunities that seem to come out of nowhere. Your only job is to stay aligned and stay open. I want to share something that might challenge your current understanding of time. In quantum physics, time isn't linear the way we experience it in our everyday lives. Past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and consciousness can move between them. This means that when you quantum jump to your richest self, you're not creating a future that doesn't exist yet. You're accessing a timeline that already exists in the eternal now. Your richest self is already living their life in their timeline, and when you merge with them, you're bringing that timeline into your present experience. This is why visualization is so powerful. You're not imagining something that will happen someday. You're connecting with something that is happening right now in another dimension of reality. This also explains why some people seem to have overnight success. They didn't create their success slowly over time. They quantum jumped to a timeline where they were already successful. From the outside, it looks sudden, but from their internal experience, they've been living in that timeline energetically for a while, and the physical reality finally caught up. This is what's available to you. You don't have to wait years or decades to experience wealth. You can quantum jump to it as soon as you become a vibrational match. The time it takes is determined by how quickly you can shift your identity and maintain your new frequency consistently. Let's address one of the biggest myths about wealth that keeps people stuck. Many people believe that being wealthy requires sacrifice. They think they'll have to work 80 hours a week, or give up their values, or become someone they're not. This belief is based on observing people who hustled their way to wealth from a place of lack. But there's another path, and it's the path your richest self is on. This path is about alignment, not sacrifice. When you're aligned with your richest self, you work from inspiration, not desperation. You make money doing things you love because passion and purpose are high-frequency states that naturally attract abundance. You create value effortlessly because you're operating from your zone of genius. You have time for relationships and health and hobbies because you understand that balance is what sustains wealth long-term. The old paradigm of wealth was about force and control and competition. The new paradigm that you're stepping into is about flow and trust and collaboration. Your richest self doesn't see others as competition. They see them as potential partners and allies because they understand that there's more than enough for everyone. They don't hoard opportunities. They share them because they know that what you give comes back multiplied. They don't need to step on others to rise because they're creating value that lifts everyone. This is conscious wealth, and it's the only kind of wealth that brings true fulfillment. When you quantum jump, make sure you're jumping to this version of wealth, not the outdated scarcity-based version. Here's a practice that will dramatically speed up your quantum jump. Start tracking evidence of your new timeline showing up in your current reality. When you find a penny on the ground, celebrate it as evidence that money is flowing to you. When you receive an unexpected refund, celebrate it. When someone buys you coffee, celebrate it. Every single piece of evidence, no matter how small, is proof that your frequency is shifting. The more you acknowledge these signs, the more the universe sends them. This is called the feedback loop of abundance. Your richest self notices and appreciates every form of abundance that shows up. They don't dismiss small wins because they understand that small wins build momentum for bigger wins. Conversely, your current self might be unconsciously looking for evidence that wealth isn't coming. They notice bills but ignore refunds. They focus on what's missing instead of what's present. They dismiss small opportunities because they're waiting for the big break. This keeps them stuck in the lack timeline because they're constantly affirming that lack is their reality. From this moment forward, decide to become a detective for abundance. Look for it everywhere. Notice when things work out in your favor. Pay attention to ease and flow and synchronicity. The more you notice it, the more it expands. Now, let's talk about the energetic exchange that happens when you receive money, because this is another area where people block their abundance without realizing it. Your richest self receives money easily and gracefully. When someone pays them, they say thank you and feel genuine appreciation. They don't feel guilty or unworthy. They don't minimize their value by saying it was nothing or you didn't have to do that. They recognize that money is simply energy exchanging hands, and they're comfortable being on the receiving end. Many people, especially those raised with scarcity programming, have a hard time receiving. They're great at giving, but when someone tries to give to them, they deflect or refuse or feel uncomfortable. This blocks the flow of abundance. Practice receiving in small ways so you can receive in big ways later. When someone compliments you, receive it fully without deflecting. When someone offers to help you, say yes without feeling like you owe them. When someone wants to pay for your meal, let them without making a big deal about it. Every time you practice receiving, you're training your nervous system to be comfortable with abundance flowing to you. Your richest self is an excellent receiver because they understand that receiving completes the circuit of giving. If everyone only gave and no one received, the energy would have nowhere to go. By receiving gracefully, you're actually giving others the gift of contribution. Let me share one of the most important principles of quantum jumping that ties everything together. Your external reality is always a reflection of your internal state. Always. If you want to know what frequency you're broadcasting, just look at your life. Your bank account, your relationships, your health, your opportunities are all mirrors showing you what's going on inside your consciousness. This isn't a judgment. This is just information. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, you don't try to change the mirror. You change yourself, and the mirror automatically reflects the change. This is what quantum jumping is all about. You're changing your internal frequency so that the external mirror reflects a different reality. The tricky part is that there's always a lag between when you shift internally and when the external reality catches up. This lag is where faith comes in. You have to trust that the shift is happening even when you can't see evidence yet. You have to keep acting from your richest self, even when the mirror is still showing your old reality. This is the ultimate test, and it's where most people fail. They shift for a few days or a few weeks, and then when nothing seems to change externally, they decide it's not working, and they go back to their old frequency. But the quantum field was responding. The change was in motion. They just quit before the lag time completed. Think of it like planting a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust that underneath the surface roots are forming and growth is happening. You water it and give it sunlight, and you wait patiently for the sprout to break through the soil. Quantum jumping works the same way. You plant the seed through your visualization and your frequency shift. You water it through consistent aligned action and positive expectation. And you trust that underneath the surface of your visible reality, the quantum field is reorganizing everything to match your new frequency. The sprout will break through. You just have to give it time and maintain your faith. Your richest self has complete faith in the process because they've already experienced the outcome. This is the advantage of quantum jumping. You're not trying to create something you've never experienced. You're connecting with a version of yourself who has already achieved it. Their certainty becomes your certainty. Their peace becomes your peace. Their strategies become your strategies. This is why spending time in meditation connecting with your richest self is so valuable. Every time you do it, you download more of their frequency into your current experience. Over time, the two versions merge until there's no separation. You become your richest self fully and permanently. Let's explore the relationship between worthiness and wealth, because this is a massive block for so many people. Deep down, many people don't believe they deserve to be wealthy. They have unconscious programs running that say they're not good enough, or they haven't worked hard enough, or they don't have the right background or education. These programs create a ceiling on how much abundance they can receive. Even if money shows up, they'll find a way to sabotage it or lose it because their internal worthiness thermostat is set too low. Your richest self has a completely different relationship with worthiness. They know that worthiness isn't earned, it's inherent. You're worthy of abundance simply because you exist. You're worthy because you're a unique expression of consciousness with gifts to share. You're worthy because the universe doesn't create anything without value. If you struggle with worthiness, start doing inner work to heal the wounds that created the unworthiness in the first place. Often these wounds go back to childhood when you internalized messages from parents or teachers or society about your value. Maybe you were told you were too much or not enough. Maybe you were compared to others and came up short. Maybe you learned that love and approval were conditional on your performance. All of these experiences created a false belief that you have to prove your worth. But you don't. You never did. Your richest self knows this, and when you merge with them, you inherit their knowing. You realize that you've always been worthy, and the only thing that was blocking your abundance was the belief that you weren't. Here's a powerful reframe. Instead of asking, "Why would I deserve wealth?" ask, "Why wouldn't I deserve wealth?" The default state of the universe is abundance. Look at nature. Trees don't produce just enough leaves to survive. They produce thousands of leaves. The ocean doesn't have just enough water. It has an overwhelming abundance of water. The universe itself is infinite and endlessly creative. Scarcity is an illusion created by fear and lack consciousness. When you align with the truth of universal abundance, you realize that wealth is your birthright. You don't have to earn it or deserve it. You simply have to allow it. Now let's talk about the practical side of quantum jumping, because while frequency and energy are crucial, you also need to take physical action in the material world. Your richest self isn't just meditating all day, waiting for money to appear. They're actively creating value and serving others and making strategic moves. The difference is that their actions come from inspiration, not desperation. They're not hustling from a place of lack. They're flowing from a place of abundance. When you quantum jump, you'll start receiving intuitive hits about actions to take. You might feel called to reach out to someone, or learn a new skill, or start a project. These intuitive nudges are the quantum field guiding you toward your desired timeline. Follow them even if they don't make logical sense. One of the mistakes people make is waiting for the perfect plan before they take action. They want to see the entire staircase before they take the first step. But that's not how quantum jumping works. You take the first step and the next step appears. You take that step and the next one appears. You're building the bridge as you walk across it. Your richest self is comfortable with uncertainty because they trust that they're being guided. They take action based on the information available right now without needing to control the entire outcome. This is faith in motion, and it's what allows synchronicities and miracles to occur. Let me give you some specific action steps that will support your quantum jump. First, clean up your environment. Your external space affects your internal state. If you're living in chaos and clutter, you're broadcasting a chaotic frequency. Your richest self lives in a space that feels abundant and organized and beautiful. You don't need to wait until you're rich to create this. Start now with what you have. Declutter your home. Organize your finances. Create beauty in small ways. Fresh flowers on your table. A candle that smells amazing. Clean sheets on your bed. These things signal to your subconscious that you value yourself and that you're worthy of beauty and comfort. Second, upgrade your self-care routine. Your richest self takes care of their body because they understand that their body is the vehicle through which they experience life. They eat high-quality food. They exercise regularly. They get enough sleep. They manage stress effectively. You don't need a lot of money to do these things. You just need to prioritize yourself. When you start treating your body like it belongs to someone wealthy, your identity begins to shift. You start feeling more valuable, which raises your frequency, which attracts more abundance. Third, monitor your language. The words you speak are powerful creators of reality. Your richest self speaks in terms of possibility and abundance. They say, "I'm creating wealth," instead of "I'm trying to make money." They say money flows easily to me, instead of "I can't afford that." They say, "I'm grateful for the abundance I have," instead of "I never have enough." Start paying attention to how you talk about money, both in your internal dialogue and in conversations with others. Every time you catch yourself speaking from lack, immediately reframe it to align with abundance. This might feel awkward at first, but over time it becomes natural, and your reality shifts to match your new language. Fourth, surround yourself with people who support your quantum jump. The 5 people you spend the most time with have a massive impact on your frequency. If you're surrounded by people who complain about money and believe that wealth is only for others, and think small, your frequency will naturally lower to match theirs. This doesn't mean you need to abandon everyone in your life, but it does mean you need to be intentional about who you give your energy to. Seek out people who are operating at the frequency you want to embody. Join communities focused on growth and abundance. Listen to content that reinforces your new identity. Your environment shapes you, so shape your environment deliberately. Fifth, invest in yourself consistently. Your richest self understands that they are their greatest asset. They invest in education and mentorship and experiences that expand their consciousness and capabilities. They don't wait until they have extra money to invest in growth. They prioritize it because they know that investing in themselves creates exponential returns. This might mean buying books, or taking courses, or hiring a coach, or attending events. It might mean traveling to places that expand your worldview, or trying activities that push you outside your comfort zone. Every dollar and every hour you invest in becoming a better version of yourself is a vote for your richest timeline. Sixth, practice generous giving, even when you don't feel like you have enough. This is counterintuitive, but it's one of the fastest ways to shift your frequency from lack to abundance. When you give from a place of genuine joy, not obligation, you're telling the universe that you have more than enough. You're affirming that wealth flows through you, not to you. Your richest self gives regularly because they understand the universal law of circulation. What you send out comes back multiplied. Start small if you need to. Give $1 to someone who needs it. Leave a generous tip. Donate to a cause you care about. The amount doesn't matter. What matters is the energy behind the giving. When you give from abundance, you become a magnet for more abundance. Now, let's address what happens when you start quantum jumping and people in your life notice the change. Not everyone will be supportive. Some people are invested in you staying exactly as you are because your growth threatens their comfort zone. They might make comments about you changing or becoming different. They might question your decisions or try to pull you back into old patterns. This is normal, and it's actually a sign that your frequency is shifting. Your richest self doesn't let other people's opinions derail them. They stay focused on their vision, and they trust that the right people will either rise with them or new aligned people will enter their life. You cannot shrink yourself to make others comfortable and still expect to quantum jump to your richest self. You have to be willing to outgrow certain relationships, and that's okay. Here's something fascinating about quantum physics that applies directly to your wealth journey. In quantum mechanics, there's a phenomenon called quantum tunneling, where particles pass through barriers that classical physics says should be impossible to penetrate. The particle doesn't have enough energy to go over the barrier, but it suddenly appears on the other side anyway. This is exactly what happens when you quantum jump. You don't have to slowly climb the mountain of wealth accumulation. You can tunnel through directly to the other side. But this requires you to stop thinking in terms of linear progression and start thinking in terms of quantum leaps. Your richest self didn't get wealthy by following the traditional slow path. They made strategic quantum jumps that collapsed time and space. This is why it's so important to stop comparing your journey to other people's journeys. Everyone is on their own timeline, and what took someone else 10 years might take you 10 months if you're operating from the right frequency. Comparison is a trap that keeps you stuck in linear thinking. Your richest self doesn't compare themselves to anyone because they're too busy creating their own unique path. They celebrate others' success because they know that someone else winning doesn't mean they're losing. In the quantum field, there are infinite possibilities for everyone. Someone else's wealth doesn't diminish yours. In fact, their success proves that wealth is possible, and that should inspire you, not discourage you. Let's dive deeper into the concept of resistance because this is what stops most people from successfully quantum jumping. Resistance shows up in many forms: procrastination, self-sabotage, sudden illness, drama with friends or family, technical difficulties. When you're on the verge of a major breakthrough, resistance will appear to test your commitment. This is the universe asking, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Most people interpret resistance as a sign that they're on the wrong path. They think if this were meant to be, it would be easy. But that's not how transformation works. Resistance is actually a sign that you're on the right path because you're pushing against the boundaries of your old identity. Your richest self pushed through resistance and came out the other side stronger. You can do the same. The key to moving through resistance is to acknowledge it without letting it stop you. When you feel resistance, notice it. Say, "Okay, there's that fear coming up, or there's that voice telling me I can't do this." Then choose to act anyway. Take the next small step, even if you're scared. Send that email. Make that investment. Have that conversation. Every time you act in the face of resistance, you prove to yourself that you're more powerful than your fear. You build evidence that you can handle whatever comes. This evidence becomes the foundation of your new identity. Your richest self isn't fearless. They just don't let fear make their decisions. Another form of resistance is over-consuming information without implementing. This is a sneaky one because it feels productive. You're reading books and watching videos and taking courses, but you're not actually applying what you learn. This is a form of hiding. It's your ego's way of staying busy without taking real risks. Your richest self consumes information strategically and then immediately applies it. They understand that knowledge without action is useless. If you find yourself stuck in learning mode without results, it's time to pause the input and focus on output. Take what you already know and use it. Implement one strategy fully before moving on to the next. Depth beats breadth every time. Let's talk about money mindset at a deeper level, because this is where quantum jumping either succeeds or fails. Your money mindset isn't just your conscious thoughts about money. It's the deeply buried beliefs and emotions and patterns that were formed in childhood and reinforced throughout your life. These unconscious programs run automatically in the background, affecting every financial decision you make. Your richest self has done the inner work to reprogram these patterns. They've identified the limiting beliefs and replaced them with empowering ones. They've healed the emotional wounds around money. They've forgiven themselves for past financial mistakes. This inner work is not optional if you want lasting wealth. You can manifest money temporarily, but if the underlying programming isn't changed, you'll find a way to lose it or sabotage it. Here are some common limiting beliefs that might be running in your subconscious. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy. I'm not smart enough to be wealthy. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard for money. There's never enough. I don't deserve abundance. Money changes people in bad ways. If I have money, people will only want me for my money. Wealth is for other people, not people like me. Take a moment and see which of these beliefs resonate with you. The ones that trigger an emotional response are the ones you're still carrying. Your richest self doesn't believe any of these things. They believe that money is a tool for good. They believe wealth allows them to make a bigger impact. They believe they're worthy of abundance simply because they exist. To reprogram these beliefs, you need to do more than just repeat affirmations. You need to find evidence for the new belief and disprove the old belief. Let's say you have the belief that rich people are greedy. Start looking for examples of wealthy people who are generous and kind. Research philanthropists. Read stories of entrepreneurs who created jobs and solved problems. Find evidence that contradicts your old belief. At the same time, examine where the belief came from. Maybe your parents spoke negatively about wealthy people. Maybe you had a bad experience with someone who had money. Acknowledge that the belief was formed from limited data and doesn't represent the whole truth. Then consciously choose a new belief. Rich people can be generous and kind, and I can be wealthy and maintain my values. Repeat this new belief and look for evidence to support it until it becomes your new automatic program. Here's a quantum jumping exercise specifically for money mindset. Close your eyes and imagine your richest self standing in front of you. Ask them what they believe about money. Listen to their response. Notice how different their beliefs are from your current beliefs. Ask them how they changed their money mindset. What specific practices did they use? What books did they read? What mentors did they learn from? Your richest self has all the answers you need because they've already walked the path you're on. Write down everything they tell you and then start implementing their wisdom. This isn't just imagination. You're literally accessing information from a parallel timeline and bringing it into your current reality. Now, let's explore the relationship between quantum jumping and purpose, because true wealth isn't just about accumulating money. It's about aligning your financial abundance with your deeper purpose. Your richest self isn't just wealthy. They're wealthy while doing work that matters to them. They've found the intersection between their natural gifts and the world's needs, and they're compensated abundantly for being in that sweet spot. This is what creates sustainable wealth. When you're making money doing something you love, the wealth continues to grow because you're not operating from burnout or resentment. You're operating from joy and passion, which are high-frequency states that naturally attract more abundance. If you don't know your purpose yet, that's okay. Your richest self can help you discover it. During your quantum jumping meditations, ask them what work they do. Ask them what brings them the most fulfillment. Ask them how they spend their days. The answers you receive will give you clues about the direction you should be moving. Purpose isn't always this grand dramatic calling. Sometimes it's simply doing something you're naturally good at in service of others. Sometimes it's solving a problem you've personally experienced. Sometimes it's creating beauty or joy or connection. Your purpose is uniquely yours, and when you align with it, money flows naturally. Let's talk about the energy of expectation, because this is a critical component of successful quantum jumping. Expectation is different from hope. Hope says, I wish this would happen, but I'm not sure it will. Expectation says, I know this is happening, and I'm preparing for it. Your richest self lives in a state of expectation. They expect opportunities to show up. They expect things to work out in their favor. They expect money to flow to them. This expectation isn't arrogant or entitled. It's based on a deep understanding of how the quantum field works. When you expect something, you're sending a clear, unambiguous signal to the universe. There's no doubt or hedging or backup plan. There's just certainty. And the quantum field responds to certainty by collapsing the timeline where your expectation is fulfilled. Start practicing expectation in small ways so you can build evidence that it works. Expect to find a good parking spot when you arrive somewhere. Expect the line you choose at the grocery store to move quickly. Expect people to be kind and helpful. Expect solutions to appear when you need them. Notice how often your expectations are met. The more you practice, the more you'll trust the process. Then start applying expectation to your wealth. Expect money to come from expected and unexpected sources. Expect opportunities for income to present themselves. Expect your financial situation to improve consistently. Hold this expectation calmly and confidently without attachment to how it happens. This is the frequency your richest self lives in constantly. Another powerful quantum jumping tool is the use of sensory visualization. Most people visualize wealth by seeing images in their mind, but the quantum field responds even more powerfully to full sensory engagement. When you visualize your richest self's life, don't just see it, feel it, hear it, smell it, taste it. If you're visualizing your dream home, feel the texture of the furniture. Smell the fresh flowers on the counter. Hear the sounds of your neighborhood. Taste the coffee you're drinking in your beautiful kitchen. The more senses you engage, the more real the experience becomes to your subconscious mind. And the more real it feels, the stronger the quantum connection between your current timeline and your desired timeline. Let's address the topic of timing because people often ask how long quantum jumping takes. The honest answer is, it depends entirely on you. It depends on how quickly you can shift your identity. It depends on how consistent you are with your frequency. It depends on how much resistance you're carrying. It depends on how willing you are to take aligned action. Some people quantum jump in weeks. Some take months. Some take years. But here's what's important to understand. The moment you commit to quantum jumping, the process begins. You don't have to see evidence immediately to know that it's working. Trust that beneath the surface, everything is reorganizing itself to match your new frequency. Your job is to stay committed and keep choosing your richest self, regardless of what your current circumstances look like. Your richest self has a relationship with time that's different from your current relationship with time. They don't feel rushed or pressured. They don't worry about being behind or running out of time. They understand that time is flexible and that they can accomplish in 1 year what might take someone else 10 years if they're aligned and focused. This relaxed relationship with time actually allows things to manifest faster because there's no resistance or desperation in their energy. When you're constantly worried about when your wealth will arrive, you're actually pushing it away. When you trust that it's coming in perfect timing, you allow it to flow to you naturally. Here's a mindset shift that will change everything. Stop thinking about quantum jumping as something you have to do and start experiencing it as something that's already happening. You're not trying to quantum jump. You are quantum jumping right now in this moment. Every time you choose a thought that aligns with your richest self, you're collapsing that timeline into your experience. Every time you take an action from abundance, you're building the bridge. Every time you feel gratitude for wealth that hasn't manifested yet, you're pulling it into your present. The quantum jump is not a future event. It's a present process. This subtle shift in perception removes the pressure and allows you to enjoy the journey instead of just focusing on the destination. Let's explore the concept of quantum entanglement as it relates to wealth. In quantum physics, when two particles become entangled, they remain connected regardless of the distance between them. What happens to one instantly affects the other. When you quantum jump, you're creating an entanglement between your current self and your richest self. The more you connect with them through meditation and visualization and aligned action, the stronger the entanglement becomes. Eventually, the connection is so strong that the two versions merge completely. You're no longer trying to become your richest self. You simply are your richest self. This is the ultimate goal of quantum jumping, and it's absolutely achievable for you. Now, I want to talk about handling setbacks because they will happen. You'll have days when you doubt the process. You'll have moments when old fears surface. You'll have situations that seem to contradict your new reality. This is completely normal, and it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Your richest self experienced setbacks too. The difference is they didn't let setbacks define them. They saw them as temporary circumstances, not permanent conditions. When you experience a setback, ask yourself, what would my richest self do right now? Would they panic and give up? Or would they take a breath, recalibrate, and keep moving forward? The answer is obvious. Setbacks are just data showing you where you still have resistance to clear. They're not evidence that quantum jumping doesn't work. Let me share a powerful reframe for financial challenges. When an unexpected bill shows up or an income source falls through, your first instinct might be to panic and spiral into lack thinking. But your richest self sees this completely differently. They see it as the universe testing their faith. They see it as an opportunity to prove that their abundance isn't dependent on one source. They see it as a chance to demonstrate their trust in the quantum field. Instead of contracting into fear, they expand into creativity. They ask, what new opportunity is this challenge revealing? How can I turn this into a win? This shift in perspective changes everything because you're no longer a victim of circumstances. You're a creator, using every experience as fuel for growth. Your richest self also has a very different relationship with failure. They don't see failure as something to avoid. They see it as feedback and information. Every failure teaches them something valuable that brings them closer to success. They fail fast and fail forward, knowing that each attempt is refining their approach. If you have a fear of failure that's keeping you stuck in your current timeline, it's time to reframe what failure means. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the path to success. Every wealthy person you admire has failed multiple times. The difference is they didn't let failure stop them. They learned and adjusted and tried again. When you adopt this mindset, failure loses its power over you. Let's dive into the quantum principle of observation and how it applies to your wealth. In quantum physics, the observer effect shows that the act of measuring a particle affects its behavior. Just by observing something, you change it. This means that what you focus your attention on literally changes to match your expectation. When you constantly observe and focus on your lack, you're reinforcing lack. When you observe and focus on evidence of abundance, you're reinforcing abundance. This is why it's so important to direct your attention consciously. Your richest self is selective about what they observe. They don't give energy to problems. They focus on solutions. They don't obsess over what's missing. They appreciate what's present. This isn't denial. This is strategic focus that creates the reality they want to experience. Here's a practical way to apply this. Create what I call an abundance journal. Every single day, write down evidence that abundance is flowing to you. It can be as small as finding a penny or as big as landing a new client. Write down compliments you received, unexpected gifts, money saved, opportunities presented, things that worked out better than expected. Over time, you'll have pages and pages of evidence that you are abundant and the universe supports you. This journal becomes proof that quantum jumping is working. Whenever doubt creeps in, read through your journal and remind yourself of all the ways abundance is already showing up. This practice trains your brain to look for abundance, which means you'll find more of it. Now let's talk about the quantum field as infinite intelligence. The quantum field isn't just a passive backdrop. It's conscious and responsive and infinitely creative. When you quantum jump, you're not manipulating or forcing the field to give you what you want. You're partnering with it. You're aligning yourself with its natural flow toward expansion and abundance. The field wants you to thrive because your thriving contributes to the evolution of consciousness itself. Every time someone breaks through their limitations and steps into a higher version of themselves, the entire collective benefits. Your wealth isn't just about you. It's about what you'll do with that wealth, how you'll contribute, how you'll inspire others, how you'll prove that abundance is possible. Your richest self understands this bigger picture. They don't just want wealth for selfish reasons. They want it so they can make a meaningful impact. They want it so they can support causes they believe in. They want it so they can show others what's possible. When your desire for wealth is connected to something larger than yourself, it carries more power. The quantum field responds to intention, and when your intention is aligned with service and contribution, the universe conspires to support you. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy the material benefits of wealth. Of course you can and should. But when wealth is purely about ego gratification, it tends to be unstable. When it's rooted in purpose, it tends to grow and sustain itself. Let's explore the difference between manifestation and quantum jumping, because while they're related, they're not the same thing. Traditional manifestation focuses on attracting what you want into your reality. Quantum jumping focuses on merging with a version of yourself who already has what you want. Manifestation is about creating. Quantum jumping is about becoming. Both can work, but quantum jumping tends to be faster and more profound because it involves a complete identity shift. When you manifest, you're still operating from your current identity, trying to pull something into your experience. When you quantum jump, you're stepping into a new identity where that thing is already part of your reality. Can you feel the difference? One is external. One is internal. One is about acquisition. One is about transformation. This is why quantum jumping creates lasting change. When you manifest money from your current identity, you might receive it, but then lose it because your identity wasn't a match for maintaining it. When you quantum jump to your richest self, you become the kind of person who naturally generates and maintains wealth. The money isn't something separate from you that you have to chase. It's an extension of who you are. This is the key to building generational wealth. It's not about one big windfall. It's about becoming someone who consistently creates value and receives abundant compensation for that value. Your richest self embodies this, and when you merge with them, you do too. Here's something that might surprise you. Your richest self is already trying to connect with you. They're sending you signs and synchronicities and intuitive nudges. They want you to find them because you're merging benefits, both timelines. Every time you feel a pull toward something that scares you but excites you, that's your richest self calling. Every time you have an idea that seems too big or impossible, that's them planting seeds. Every time you feel dissatisfied with your current reality, that's them reminding you that more is available. Start paying attention to these moments. They're not random. They're invitations to quantum jump. Your richest self is reaching through the quantum field, trying to guide you home to them. Let's talk about the role of discipline in quantum jumping, because while frequency and energy are crucial, you also need structure and consistency. Your richest self has disciplined habits that support their wealth. They don't just think positive thoughts occasionally. They have a daily practice that keeps them aligned. This might include meditation or journaling or visualization or affirmations or movement or any combination of practices that work for them. The specific practices matter less than the consistency. Quantum jumping requires you to show up every single day and choose your new identity even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. This is how you build momentum and create lasting change. Create a daily quantum jumping routine that works for your lifestyle. Maybe you start your morning with 10 minutes of visualization connecting with your richest self. Maybe you journal for 5 minutes about evidence of abundance. Maybe you end your day with gratitude for the wealth that's flowing to you. Maybe you listen to frequency music or guided meditations. Maybe you read books or watch content that reinforces your new identity. Find what resonates with you and commit to it for at least 30 days. 30 days is enough time to start seeing shifts. 30 days is enough time to build a new neural pathway. 30 days is enough time to prove to yourself that this works. Now, let's address the fear of success, because believe it or not, this is just as common as fear of failure. Some part of you might actually be afraid of becoming your richest self. Success means visibility. It means responsibility. It means change. It means potentially outgrowing relationships and situations that feel comfortable even if they're limiting. Your ego prefers the known, even when the known is painful, because at least it's familiar. Stepping into the unknown of wealth triggers survival fear in your nervous system. This is why some people unconsciously sabotage themselves right before a breakthrough. They get scared and pull back to safety. Your richest self has moved through this fear. They've proven that success doesn't destroy you. It elevates you. If you have fear of success, acknowledge it, and then ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I become wealthy? Really sit with that question. Often the fears are completely irrational or based on false beliefs. Once you bring them into the light, they lose their power. Let's explore the quantum concept of non-locality, which states that objects can be instantaneously connected regardless of the distance between them. This means your richest self exists in another timeline, but they're not far away. They're right here with you, separated only by frequency. When you raise your frequency high enough, the distance collapses and you merge. This is why quantum jumping can happen so quickly. You're not traveling a long journey. You're simply tuning into a different channel. Imagine your life is a radio. And right now, you're tuned to a station playing struggle and limitation. Your richest self is on a different station playing abundance and success. You don't have to create that station, you just have to turn the dial. The station already exists, and it's broadcasting right now. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself regularly. Am I making this decision from my current self or my richest self? Before you buy something, ask this. Before you accept or decline an opportunity, ask this. Before you speak or act, ask this. This simple question keeps you conscious and aligned. Most people make decisions on autopilot based on old programming. But when you pause and check in with your richest self, you make different choices. Over time, these different choices compound into a completely different life. Every decision is a fork in the road. One path keeps you on your current timeline. One path moves you toward your richest timeline. Choose consciously. Let's talk about the importance of celebration in quantum jumping. Every win, no matter how small, deserves to be acknowledged and celebrated. Your richest self celebrates their successes because celebration is a high-frequency emotion that attracts more success. When something good happens, don't just move on to the next thing. Pause and really let yourself feel the joy and excitement and gratitude. Share your win with someone who will celebrate with you. This tells the quantum field that you're ready for more good things. It also trains your brain to look for and recognize wins, which creates a positive feedback loop. Many people are so focused on what's not working or what's still missing that they completely overlook the evidence that things are working. Don't make this mistake. Become a master celebrator. Now I want to address the spiritual aspect of quantum jumping, because for some people this feels like it conflicts with their spiritual or religious beliefs. Let me be clear. Quantum jumping isn't about replacing your spirituality. It's about understanding the mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. Every major spiritual tradition teaches that we're co-creators with the divine, that our thoughts and beliefs shape our experience, that we're made in the image of the Creator, which means we have creative power. Quantum jumping is simply the scientific explanation for what spiritual teachers have been saying for thousands of years. You're not working against the universe or God or Source. You're working with the creative force that flows through all things. Your richest self is living in alignment with this force, and when you quantum jump, you're returning to your natural state of abundance. Let's dive deeper into the concept of parallel selves, because this is where quantum physics gets really fascinating. According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, every decision you make creates a branch in reality, where an alternate version of you made a different choice. This means there are potentially infinite versions of you across infinite timelines. Some versions are thriving, some are struggling, some made brave choices, some played it safe. All of these versions are real, and all of them exist simultaneously. When you quantum jump, you're not creating a new version. You're choosing to merge with a version that already exists. This removes the pressure of having to become someone you're not. You're simply becoming the you that you already are in another dimension of reality. Think about a major decision you made in the past. Maybe you took a job or ended a relationship or moved to a new city. Now imagine there's a timeline where you made the opposite choice. That version of you is living a completely different life. Neither choice was right or wrong. They just led to different outcomes. The same is true for every decision you make today. Every time you choose between your current self and your richest self, you're determining which timeline becomes your dominant reality. The more often you choose from your richest self, the stronger that timeline becomes until it overtakes your current timeline completely. You're literally shifting dimensions through the power of conscious choice. Your richest self has wisdom that comes from having already walked the path you're on. They know which opportunities to say yes to and which to decline. They know which relationships support their growth and which drain their energy. They know which investments pay off and which don't. When you connect with them in meditation, you can download this wisdom. You can ask them specific questions about decisions you're facing. Should I take this job? Should I start this business? Should I invest in this opportunity? Then quiet your mind and listen for the response. The answer might come as a feeling or a knowing or a voice or an image. Trust what you receive. Your richest self is your future self sending guidance back through time to help you navigate your journey more efficiently. Let's talk about the relationship between quantum jumping and surrender. This might seem contradictory because I've been talking about conscious choice and deliberate action. But there's a paradox here that's important to understand. You need to be intentional about your frequency and your choices while simultaneously surrendering the how and the when to the universe. You set the destination, but you release attachment to the specific path. Your richest self holds their vision clearly, but they don't try to control every detail of how it manifests. They trust that the quantum field has intelligence far beyond their limited human perspective. They know that sometimes what looks like a detour is actually a shortcut. Sometimes what looks like a setback is actually a setup for something better. This is the dance of co-creation. You do your part by holding your frequency and taking aligned action. The universe does its part by orchestrating people and circumstances and opportunities in ways you never could have planned. When you try to control everything, you block the flow. When you surrender completely without doing your part, you abdicate your creative power. The sweet spot is right in the middle. Clear intention plus aligned action plus trust in divine timing equals quantum jumping success. Your richest self has mastered this balance, and when you merge with them, you inherit their ability to hold the paradox. Here's a quantum jumping technique specifically for dissolving blocks. Close your eyes and think about your biggest fear or resistance around wealth. Maybe it's the fear that you'll fail. Maybe it's the fear that success will change you. Maybe it's the belief that you're not worthy. Whatever it is, bring it into your awareness. Now imagine this fear as a physical object in front of you. What does it look like? What color is it? How big is it? Now imagine your richest self walking toward you holding light in their hands. They place their hands on the fear object, and as they do, the light dissolves it completely. Watch as the fear transforms into pure energy and releases. Feel the freedom that comes as this block dissolves. Thank your richest self for helping you release what no longer serves you. This technique works because you're using your imagination to reprogram your subconscious mind. And your subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Let's explore the concept of wealth consciousness versus poverty consciousness, because this is the fundamental difference between your current self and your richest self. Poverty consciousness sees the world through the lens of scarcity. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough opportunities, not enough resources. From this mindset, every decision is based on fear of loss. Every choice is about protecting what little you have. Poverty consciousness hoards and controls and contracts. Wealth consciousness sees the world through the lens of abundance. More than enough for everyone. Infinite possibilities. Unlimited resources. From this mindset, decisions are based on faith in increase. Every choice is about expansion and growth. Wealth consciousness gives and trusts and flows. Which consciousness are you operating from right now? Be honest. Your current reality is showing you the answer. The good news is that consciousness can be shifted. You're not stuck in poverty consciousness just because you were raised in it or surrounded by it. Your richest self shifted from poverty consciousness to wealth consciousness, and you can too. It starts with awareness. Notice when you're thinking from scarcity. Notice when you're making decisions from fear. Notice when you're operating from the belief that there's not enough. Every time you catch yourself in poverty, consciousness pause and ask, what would wealth consciousness think instead? Then choose that thought. It will feel strange at first because it's unfamiliar, but keep choosing it. Over time, wealth consciousness becomes your default, and when it does, your external reality has no choice but to reflect abundance. Now let's talk about the role of action in quantum jumping, because I don't want you to think this is all just mindset work with no practical application. Your richest self takes massive inspired action, but they do it from a place of alignment, not hustling. There's a difference between forcing and flowing. Forcing is when you're pushing and grinding and exhausting yourself trying to make things happen. Flowing is when you're moving with energy and purpose, because you're inspired by your vision. Your richest self works hard, but it doesn't feel like sacrifice, because they're doing what they love. They're in their zone of genius. They're creating value that the world wants. This is the kind of action that leads to sustainable wealth. If you're currently in a job or situation that doesn't align with your richest self, don't quit tomorrow and jump into the unknown. That's not quantum jumping. That's reckless. Quantum jumping is strategic. Your richest self makes smart moves. They build bridges before they burn boats. They create new income streams before they leave old ones. They invest in learning and skills that will serve their future. Start taking small aligned actions today that move you in the direction of your richest self. Maybe that's starting a side project. Maybe it's taking a course. Maybe it's networking with people in your desired field. Maybe it's saving money to invest in an opportunity. Every small action builds momentum, and momentum creates results. Let's address the topic of patience, because quantum jumping requires it, even though it can happen quickly. The quantum field operates outside of linear time, but your human experience is still bound by time. This means there's often a gap between when you start quantum jumping and when you see significant external changes. This gap is where faith is built. This gap is where your commitment is tested. This gap is where most people quit. Your richest self made it through this gap by trusting the process even when they couldn't see evidence yet. They kept choosing their new identity day after day, week after week, month after month, until suddenly everything shifted. And when it shifted, it seemed to happen overnight, but really it was the cumulative effect of consistent alignment. Be patient with yourself and be patient with the process. You're rewiring decades of programming. You're shifting your entire identity. You're collapsing timelines. This doesn't happen instantly, even though the quantum mechanics are instantaneous. Your nervous system needs time to adjust. Your subconscious needs time to accept the new programming. Your external reality needs time to reorganize. Trust that every day you're making progress even when you can't see it. Trust that the quantum field is working behind the scenes. Trust that your richest self is pulling you toward them. The gap will close. The breakthrough will come. Just don't quit before it does. Here's a final powerful practice to integrate everything we've covered. Create a quantum jumping altar or sacred space in your home. This is a physical location that represents your commitment to merging with your richest self. On this altar place, items that symbolize wealth to you. Maybe it's a picture of your dream home. Maybe it's play money. Maybe it's a vision board. Maybe it's crystals or candles or anything that makes you feel abundant. Visit this space daily, even if just for a few minutes. Sit there and breathe and connect with your richest self. This physical anchor helps solidify your intention and gives you a tangible reminder of your quantum jump. Your subconscious mind loves symbols and rituals. Use them to your advantage. Your richest self is waiting for you. They're on the other side of the quantum field, living the life you desire. They're calling you forward, inviting you to step into that timeline fully. They've left breadcrumbs for you to follow, signs and synchronicities and opportunities. Your job is to stay alert and recognize them when they appear. Your job is to say yes, even when it scares you. Your job is to keep choosing wealth consciousness over poverty consciousness. Your job is to take aligned action consistently. Your job is to trust the quantum field. Your job is to remember that you're not separate from your richest self. You are your richest self. You've always been your richest self. You just forgot for a while. Quantum jumping is simply the process of remembering who you really are. Everything I've shared with you today isn't just theory. It's not just positive thinking. This is the quantum mechanics of reality applied to your personal wealth journey. You now understand that your richest self already exists in a parallel timeline, and that you have the power to merge with them starting right now in this moment. You understand that reality is flexible and responsive to your dominant frequency. You understand that every thought you think and every choice you make is either keeping you locked in your current timeline or building a bridge to your richest timeline. The question isn't whether quantum jumping works. The question is whether you're ready to commit to becoming your richest self, regardless of what your current circumstances look like. I created a traction magnet to be your guide on this journey. Every video on this channel is designed to raise your frequency and unlock doors you didn't even know existed. If this video resonated with you and you're ready to quantum jump to your richest self, hit that subscribe button right now, because you're not here by accident. You're here because some part of you already knows that your wealthiest, most abundant, most powerful version is calling you home. Let's walk this path together. Let's prove that abundance is your birthright and that wealth consciousness is your natural state. The universe is waiting to show you just how supported you really are. and I'll be here every step of the way, sharing the tools and the wisdom and the frequency shifts that will make your quantum jump inevitable. Subscribe now, and let's create the life you were always meant to live. Your richest self is already celebrating because they know you've just made the decision that changes everything. Welcome to your new timeline. Welcome to Attraction Magnet. Welcome home.